one thing that differentiates these two theories is that looking at normative ethical theories makes a lot of sense if you believe in free will. If you believe in free will, you believe that a person is able to make up their own mind, to choose freely what to do and what not to do, and then you can ask the question, what should we do? If I have a choice, then it makes sense to ask, which of the famous ethical theories should I subscribe to? And if determinism is true, then every single thing that it looks like you're doing is not actually because of something you're freely choosing. So if determinism is true, you are doing things because of something that came prior, and then prior, and then prior, going all the way back to the Big Bang. Let's look at what determinism is, what free will is, and then their differences. We're going to be talking about free will and determinism in general. However, there are certain fields that talk about this debate, and within each field, they talk about the debate slightly differently. For example, if you're a psychology student and you're trying to learn more about this debate, you should probably do a search, the free will and determinism debate in psychology, for example. Or if you're within religion, you should look up what theologians say about this debate. I am a PhD in philosophy, so I will be staying in my lane here. Do people have control over their actions? Here is a very sloppy, vague way to ask a question about whether people are free. First of all, this idea of people. We're not just talking about any human being ever. We're talking about a rational adult who is typically able to do things. So set aside cases of the disabled, set aside cases of the really, really young, set aside cases of the really, really old. Take an average, normal, typical, able-bodied human being who's rational, whatever those words mean, and then think of that person. When they are doing something or looking like they're doing something, say tossing a marker up and down, it looks like they're doing it. We even call it their action. But then the question is it their action? Was the act caused by that person or agent or individual? How much control does your typical adult have over what they do? And this isn't just a catch-all question for absolutely every action, because we have certain ideas that there's things you are doing or that are happening inside of you over which you have no control. Like, for example, you can probably hold your breath, but not very long. You can probably make your heart rate go up and down a little bit, but you cannot control your lungs. You cannot control your heart. You cannot close your ears. There's things you can't do. You cannot fly because you don't have wings. You cannot swim forever under the ocean because you don't process oxygen the way, for example, fish do. So that we know that there's things you can't control. But what about the things it seems like you can control? What about tossing a marker up and down? I can choose the green one or I can choose the pink one. Which one will I do? Well, the question about determinism and free will is a question about whether I'm even choosing, about whether I even have control over the things it looks like I have control over. So here's this basic general question. Do people act freely? Is there agent causation? Do people have control over their actions in general? And then if you say, yes, they do, there are certain things that you can completely decide, then that is called free will. Libertarian is a word that you might see all over, but in politics it means something totally different than it does here. And what the libertarian politics has in common with libertarian free will here in metaphysics or philosophy more broadly is that they're sharing this root of liberty, of freedom, of the ability to choose. Libertarian free will says yes. In general, your average rational person has some control over their actions. Whereas someone who believes in hard determinism is someone who answers this question by saying no. Hard determinism is the idea that people are not in control of the actions, even the actions it looks like they're choosing. So here's your vague definition of these words. Hard determinism says that all events, actions, thoughts, things that happen are causally inevitable. That means that when something happens, it was predetermined. So here is time slipping into the past, moving into the future, and every single event is caused by a previous event that is caused by a previous event. And so every single thing that happens is a cause and effect chain going all the way back to the first cause. Choosing or deliberating is just an illusion. Free will is just an illusion. Whereas libertarian free will says that some events are choices that people make from real options. So imagine this timeline. When you are here in this present moment, you are watching this YouTube video, and whether you finish the video or not is not already set in stone by a previous cause. For example, your disposition to get bored or stay interested in something like philosophy. The determinist is saying that there's a bunch of stuff that goes into making you alive, and those things are a part of the causal chain that makes you do the things you do, and therefore you are not free. The libertarian is saying that even though there's a long list of things that influence you, you're still not controlled to the extent that we would say you don't have any choice in the matter. You can study philosophy and get smarter, and you can practice talking in public and so lose your fear of socialization. And you can watch funny movies where people are really funny and then just copy them. You can change your diet and start exercising in a different way and change your health. But there's still things about you that are not in your control. And it seems like those are the things that control you. Like if you have some rare genetic disease, you got that built into your life, and it's going to determine what happens to you. And it seems like for a lot of things that influence how our future goes, it was built into how things have been. And that's exactly the determinist view. Are you able to do something right now, today, because of your choice to do it, having nothing to do with anything that came before your moment's choice? What does it mean to have the alternative possibility of doing something else? And how do we do something else? Are we able to do something else? These questions that would settle this debate are unanswerable. It is not possible epistemologically for us to figure out which metaphysical theory is true. And lots of people have argued that they can both be true at the same time. Very few people argue that hard determinism is absolutely false. Nevertheless, somebody does something that you think is wrong. If you want the ability to blame them or to hold them accountable or to give them a citation or to take them to court or to have them jailed or to send them to hell, you have to say that they did it freely. Because if they didn't have the opportunity to do otherwise, they were forced to do it, then how are you holding them morally responsible? And that's how this gets very philosophical.